Welcome to the Red Conrad Show, the story of my life and world events how I see them. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe. Let's get this going. How you doing? So in the first episode, I gave some basic information. Generally, I mentioned my dysthymia, bipolar, borderline, anxiety. I gave a few details, ridiculous details, about how I am, why I am the way I am. If you want to go back on to that first episode, you can. I got some information in the blog post, converted podcast episode, in the I Am That I Am series. And I have some of that information in there about, why I am the way I am, why I, think the way I think, do what I do, the way I do it. I gave some general background on my early life. I gave, examples of what's going to end up becoming future podcast episodes from the past. One that, more or less starts out a good thing. I got recruited into a business, and then, the personal side of that business deal kind of went to shit pretty fast, and that era of my life is literally a podcast series all in itself. I figure it's probably be at least 2 episodes. It might be more than that. Depends on how quickly I go through all the details. And before it comes up, because I'm sure it's going to, I've had people say to me, face to face, yes, I have a problem with my talking, with my speech, and I have a problem belching. Okay? I have ulcers. I used to take Nexium form. The Nexium did help. I have not taken any medication for my ulcers in a good while now. So yeah, every now and again you might hear what sounds like a belch. It's not. I'm not deliberately burping. It's just, I don't know if I want to call it indigestion, acid reflux, whatever. I don't view it as belching. It's my ulcers. I can't help that. You might hear lighters flickering in the background of some episodes. Yes, I smoke. Yes, I tried to quit several times. I quit last year. Lasted all 2 months. My current situation, I'll be talking about in a future episode, kind of stressed me out to the max. A number of things in it, all adding up on top of each other, and I needed a cigarette. I'll get to that in a future episode. Basically, as I said in the first episode, this podcast was originally going to be put together for me and only me, like a personal audio journal for myself, come back to, a couple of years or a couple months, whatever, and just re-listen to everything from the past, like, record something, whether it be daily, weekly, whatever. And then as time passes, when a certain situation is over, come back and re-listen to it, just for my own benefit. But then I decided, what? Screw it. People are going to search for it. People might find it on their own and listen to it. So I decided, well, I'll talk about it to people anyways. So I made a web page for it. I made a Facebook page for it. There is going to be some content though that is going to be subscriber only. As I mentioned in the first episode, because there's going to be what some people would view as triggers in the episodes. Certain stories. I'm not going to hold back or watch my cursing. There's going to be a lot of that going on. And there's going to be a lot of things that I personally feel minors shouldn't be listening to. So despite having warnings everywhere about possible triggers, despite the fact that I do have it the podcast marked as explicit. I'm just trying to put that extra layer between, myself, my content, and, minors listening to it, what they shouldn't be listening to. And there's just some stories that I feel, well, if you want to hear them, you can, but pay the subscription. Because some of these stories are very personal, are going to be very personal. Some of these stories are gonna, to the average person, it might seem ridiculously funny. You might get a good laugh out of it. But to people like me that, view things differently than the average person, that go through certain situations and, it affects us different. If you're gonna listen to it, you're gonna pay. Bottom line. It's very personal stories. Some of these stories that will be subscriber only. Only very few people were ever told about it outside those that were involved in the situations. Some of them are going to sound a little out there because it just doesn't happen to the average person. One story in particular, when I record it, should you subscribe and listen to that story, you might think I'm full of shit, and that's fine. I've had one person that I told the story to laugh at it and then tell me that he believes the story only because it sounds so messed up that it can't be made up. And he didn't even get all the details. I basically gave him a summarized version of what happened. So, that being said, I'm trying to keep this recap shorter than the initial episode. So again, the first episode was just a lot of boring stuff. Recapped a little bit of my past. Gave some examples that's going to end up in future episodes. I did mention that some stories are going to start out on the free content side, and then they'll have at least a part or the second half, or depending on how long the story is, will be on the subscriber only content. I just explained why I'm doing that. There's certain things that just, whether it be too personal to me, or whether it be full of triggers, and certain content I just don't want minors to stumble across. We'll be behind subscriber only content. I do view things a little messed up, backwards, twisted. Certain phrases that I grew up with hearing all the time. If those phrases are said to me by somebody today, even if it's completely innocent, I will take it the wrong way. I will go relive my past and respond accordingly. It won't be until I calm down that, I realize how messed up I responded when I heard it. And my mind's all kinds of screwed up. Between my mental issues, my anxiety, to PTSD and different things I've gone through, I'm literally all kinds of messed up, and I'm hoping that I can I'm hoping that my show can kind of try to show people, the people like me, yeah, we're a little out there, we're a little weird, we deal with things to the average person what might be a little, out there, funny, laughable, whatever, depending on the situation. But I'm hoping that by doing the show, talking about things helps me and can help other people with my conditions that might come across my podcast and listen to my stories, and how I've made it through different situations, how I'm trying to make it through my current situations. And I guess the first real example of how I do things, how I deal with things in the past leading up to now, would be, I guess, in the first actual story that I record. Right now, this and the first episode is basically just to try to get something out there, get a little bit of background information, and just try to set. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. So yeah, well, that's basically the first episode. Okay, first episode was me losing my train of thought. little bit of my past, mention of my mental issues, upcoming stories I'm going to be talking about, the reason behind the subscriber-only content, and that I'm a little messed up in the head. There's people that I know personally that, should they listen to my podcast, are bound to get upset by different things that I say, whether they take it out of context, whether they were involved in a particular era of my life or particular story that I talk about that they don't want out there for one reason or the other, whether it be because somebody figures out who they are, oh my god, they're going to look at me like this or like that. Well, to those people, look, I'm not naming names. If you want to have your name out there and have everybody know who you are specifically, you can come on my show as a guest and we'll talk about that particular story. I'll give my side, how I saw it. You can give your side how you saw it. Other than that, I'm not mentioning names outside, titles like a friend or my dad or my brother. No, I'm not saying names specifically. It just is what it is. And at the same time, like I said in the first episode, some of these stories especially pertaining to my family, all go back 20, 30 years. People change over time. People go through different events that change them. Certain things that happened in the past have been hashed over more recently. Some of us did leave the past in the past, and that's fine. Does not mean I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. There's a lot of things I talk about to my close friends, and some of those things are going to wind up on the podcast, and that's just the way it is. I'm doing this for me, and I'm doing this for people like me that have bipolar or borderline or dysthymia or anxiety, so they can hear my stories, how I dealt with different situations, and if it helps them going through similar situations, then it does. If not, these people will at least know that they're not alone out there. There are other people out there that suffer with these same conditions, that are going through similar situations, and there's multiple different ways of coping with things. I've always been the one, since I was a kid, that my friends came to talk to. Like I was, as messed up as I am, as confused as I was when I was a kid, which, if you listen to the first episode, you'll hear, what I mean by that. But as confused as I was as a kid, as screwed up as I was as a kid inside my own head, I was the one who my friends came to talk to. Like, I heard everybody's shit. I didn't really, go to nobody about my shit. So I didn't talk. I didn't open up. I didn't start opening up about my life until, later on in my life. I started bitching about certain things when I was a teenager, but I didn't really open up about, my home life or things that were bothering me until, my early mid-20s. And then, yeah. So I was basically, the one everybody went to, because I didn't overshadow nobody. I didn't try saying, well, you think you're less bad, well, this is mine. I didn't do any of that shit. I sat down and I listened. I was my friend's shoulder to cry on. I was my friend's freaking therapist, as messed up as my life was. So I heard some shit from my friends. I saw some shit from my closer friends. I was there to witness some of my friends messed up lives and messed up, screwed up families. Some of them just as stripped as mine. And now I'm at the point where, I want to talk about mine. I've had strangers, complete strangers, stop me and talk to me about their lives and start crying about situations that were into me. Strangers. I used to work out in Jacksonville, right? And I had this biker. Well, wasn't a biker in the sense of like a motorcycle. It was like a regular pedal bike. That, I parked on the far side of the parking lot at a gas station, went in, got some food and whatnot, right? And as I'm walking back out to my van, he just randomly comes up to me and starts talking to me. I heard his whole life story. I'm not gonna go into details what it was, but it was pretty, messed up. He started crying in front of me as he's telling me his story. Then he apologized to me for crying and whatnot, and that he just felt that I would be easy to talk to. He felt comfortable talking to me, and he needed somebody to talk to, and it was relieving getting it off his chest. Okay, fine. I had somebody else in the current town that I work in. Again, at a gas station. It was the end of my day. I'm sitting there running my numbers, trying to figure out my profit for the day, right? And I had some random person literally get in my van. Like they didn't tap on the window, have me roll it down. No, they literally opened up the passenger door and got in. And as I'm sitting there just staring at them, I'm like, what the hell? They started telling me about their life, what's going on. With how their day was going, they literally told me that they felt that, when they saw me sitting there, they felt that, I was placed there by God for them to, come talk to and get some of this stress off of their shoulders. It's just, for whatever reason, people feel comfortable talking to me. As screwed up as I am in the head, as messed up as I've got to look people out in public. I mean, I don't know if I want to call them tics per se, or what's the word I'm looking for? Like there's certain things that I do. Like I have this thing of dropping things, of losing things. So I used to wear, when I was younger, I used to have a lot of shit in my pockets. I used to have like 5 chains hanging from me, 3 on one side, 2 on the other side. I had freaking like these punk goth themed rings on every finger. I mean, I was something to look at. I mean, it was ridiculous, my old style, how I used to dress. And for whatever reason, I'd have things falling out the bottoms of my pockets. I had my one earring would fall out of my ear every now and again. So I had this thing about dropping things and losing things, right? So as I'm walking around or going through a store, I'll turn around and look at where this came from, even though nothing fell. I didn't hear nothing fall. It's just, I have this urge. I have to make sure nothing dropped. I don't know why. It's just something that developed. Yeah, stupid little things like that. So I'm sure I have to look ridiculous to people watching me do this shit. But for whatever reason, people feel comfortable talking to me. I don't know. It is what it is. So after most of my life hearing other people's stuff, and then a couple years ago, trying to get comfortable talking about my stuff, and trying to start a blog series about it. The series I think only has 3-4 blog posts. I might have done a 5th, I don't remember. And then I just stopped. It was a combination of I didn't know what else to say, and things in my life just getting too busy to really be able to sit down and put my thoughts in order. To now, I got the idea of the podcast. I mean, there's a lot of things that I want to talk about, for myself, like I said, but if the show goes public, it goes public. People listen to it. If it can help them, fine. Otherwise, I can come back to my show later on and listen to different parts of my life and, see how I felt about it, at the time of recording, to how I feel about it, in the future when I'm sitting down and re-listening to it. And if it helps somebody else, then it does. If not, well, whatever. Like I said, I started out, with the idea that this is mainly for me. But I do gotta get more comfortable talking about it, and more comfortable with how my life is, how my life went. Trying to make my life, better. One of those situations where I had everything, lost everything, started to get back on track, lost everything again. I'm trying not to go into too much detail into any one particular story right now, because I want to, just out the whole story, and one story at a time per episode, or per series, whatever. So between the first boring episode and this boring episode, this is pretty much, the background of how I am. You can see how I talk. You can see, how I tend to just ramble. I lose my train of thought every now and again, because I don't really, the way I am, even back when I first got ordained into ministry, yes, I'm ordained. I got ordained back in 2010, started the ministry. I got, 5 branches, I think, or 6 branches over in Africa. Most of them are in Kenya. I was invited all over the world. I was invited to Kenya, India, Romania, Nigeria, Australia. But even when I was first ordained and I was doing, video sermons, I didn't really prepare anything. I mean, I did, but I didn't. Like, I had a topic I wanted to cover for that week, right? And I do the research. I go through the Bible and get all the relevant, verses for the topic I was talking about. And I just make notes. Like, I didn't actually write it out. I just make notes. and then I'd hop on the video. And some of those videos were literally started, deleted, and started over again like 10 times before it finally got to the version that got uploaded. Because I don't really write down or pre-prepare my shows. I never have. I get something on my mind. If I got time to talk about it, I'll talk about it. Or if I'm doing it for one of my blogs, I'll write it down. I'll put it in the blog. If I don't got time, I just try to remember what I wanted to say when I do have time. And it either comes out the way I wanted it to when I first thought of it, or it doesn't, and I end up, redoing it a couple times before it finally sounds the way I want it to sound. This podcast, however, I'm probably not going to do too many deletions and redos. I'm probably going to do like however it sounds. If I go off topic, I go off topic. If I repeat myself a million times, I repeat myself a million times. I want my podcast to, pretty much be real, be me. I want the future me to see me now. How I was, if my speaking patterns, if my ability to, keep my thoughts organized gets better over time, I want to be able to see that in myself. And I want to be able to realize, like I do realize now from looking back at myself, reading through my different blogs, and just looking at my past, from my past up to now, I changed a lot. Right? Like, a lot of things that I did out of anger and frustration just a few years ago, I don't do now. Now, I'm a lot calmer in those same situations than I was just a few years ago. So some of these stories you're going to hear, and when you hear how I reacted to them, like in the first episode, the incident with the light bulb, for example, I did used to respond to things as messed up as I did in those situations. Currently, I might still act a little messed up to the average person, like how I currently respond to those same situations, but I don't respond as ridiculous as I did. The more I talk about the more I talk about my life to people, the more I get certain things off my chest to my friends, And we just sit down and we talk, and I got friends that are messed up too. So I'm hearing their life, they're hearing mine. We're like basically comparing lives, if that makes any sense. Helping each other, deal with each other's stuff. I got one friend in particular, he's like a brother to me. That we're basically helping each other get through each other's shit and deal with each other's shit. And doing that has helped me calm down a lot. It's helped me realize a lot about myself and different things. And so yeah, I did used to respond and react to things pretty, extreme. And I am a lot calmer these days than I was. A big part of how calm I've become now, as opposed to how extreme I was in the past, is actually due to my now deceased, basically she was my wife. Okay. We've known each other for 14 years. We were together for 12 years before cancer took her from me. And, she met me at my worst. She literally saw my worst. She was there. If you listen to the first episode, she was there for the office chair incident, okay? She was there for the crash. She literally saw my extremes. And she didn't give a shit. She was there for me. Just the way she was. Just the way she was as a person, how loving she was, how supportive she was of me, of my dreams, of my goals, and how understanding she was of my conditions, of how my mind works. She actually helped me through a lot. She actually helped me be able to learn a lot about myself and calm down and a hell of a lot, and learn how to control a lot of my issues. Man, she passed away a year and a half ago now. Freaking cancer. I missed the hell out of her. I know she's up in heaven. No more pain. So I guess there's that. But she's actually the reason why I'm so calm right now. To a lot of situations where before I met her, had the situations occurred, it would have been over. She's even witnessed me try to trigger warning. She's even witnessed me try to off myself, okay, and stop me. Before we got together, she saved my life, and then when life got real bad after we were together, I don't know how she knew. I don't know if we were just together, because we spent all day every day together. So she would have learned me. We did everything together, literally everything. Even my businesses, we ran my businesses together. We worked together. We lived together. So I don't know if she just picked up on my patterns and was able to but one day I got so upset with the state that my life was in, that our life was in, and I didn't really see a way out, and I was contemplating, and I walked out the door. I went down and sat by the river, and I don't know, a couple minutes later, she followed me. I'm sitting there crying, and she come up behind me, start talking to me, calm me down. I loved her, man. I miss her. Anyways, before she came into my life, I was a disaster. Even after she came into my life, because it wasn't overnight, light switch, flipping, I changed, It was a couple years, her dealing with my shit. Her, literally helping me situation by situation get through the situation. And after a while, I guess you can say it just got to the point where, I was used to, being by myself. I had girlfriends before her, obviously, but we didn't live together, And then, but me and her, we lived in the same building when we met. And then we got together, and then we were just, I think, it was only like 1 year we were together that we weren't living together. So our whole relationship, starting out from friendship, we were living together, we were working together, did everything, went to the stores to get shopping together. So she saw some of my shit, but because I was used to being alone most of my life, and I just, I used to be with my friends, I get pissed off and I leave, I just go destroy stuff. But with her in my life, I couldn't do that, And after a while, it just got to the point where I was tired of feeling like I'm not hurting just myself, I'm hurting her too, her being there constantly and me getting as upset as I got, it just started messing with my head, because I didn't want to feel like I'm hurting somebody I care about because they're watching me do what I'm doing to myself. And then, how many times are you going to sit down and talk to somebody through the same shit? I didn't want... Alright. I basically felt bad because I felt like, it was her choice, obviously. She could have left if she wanted to. She didn't. She chose to stay with me. We had what I feel was true love, okay? So when you truly love somebody, you're going to be with them through thick and thin. You're going to be there to support them. You're going to be there to help them no matter what. You help each other grow. You help each other through each other's shit. And that's what she did for me. But I was so bad. My mind was so fucked up. It started getting to me because I honestly felt like what I was doing to myself and how I was to myself was affecting her, and I didn't like that. Whether it was or not, she never really said anything about that to me, about, if she felt a certain way about it. She claimed that she loved me when I started working my current business, and I'd be in Jacksonville for 2 days at a time. When I came home, she literally, I couldn't open the door fast enough. She literally come through the door to hug me and welcome me home, tell me how much she missed me. We had that kind of relationship, So maybe it wasn't bothering her. Maybe, she enjoyed being able to help me. I don't know. But just that, feeling inside myself, I didn't want her to, be hurt, watching me hurt myself the way I was, and, destroy myself the way that I was. I think that, as well as her constantly being there for me, is what helped me learn how to control myself, control different aspects of myself, and really calm me down a lot. So, anyways, yeah, you're gonna hear some messed up stories in my past of, different situations I was in and how I reacted that to the average person is gonna seem a little extreme, a little ridiculous, maybe a little bit funny. And if you want to laugh at me, go ahead and laugh. That's certain situations I look back at my past now and I laugh at, because the way I responded to the situation, and some situations it's just the situation itself, it is hilarious. It wasn't funny when I was going through it, but looking back on it, it makes me laugh. So if you hear these stories and you want to laugh about the situation or about how I reacted to it, go ahead and laugh, but there are certain situations and certain responses I had to those situations that, yes, that is how I was, but no, it's not how I am now. Now I'm a lot calmer. And, as I go through my life, you will see a transition in me from, the extreme, how I used to be, to how I am now. And by all means, if any of you listening to this, if you have, bipolar or borderline personality disorder or an anxiety disorder, PTSD, dysthymia, if you have any of those conditions or a similar condition, and you want to come on the show and just talk about it, it doesn't have to be any one particular topic. Just talk. You can reach out to me at podcast@redconrad.com, and we'll talk. Whether it's live whether it's recorded for the show or it's just a private conversation just between me and you. We'll talk about it. Obviously, only 2 episodes in, really barely saying much of anything. You probably might not feel comfortable, talking to me yet. You haven't really heard much of what I've been through, how I deal with it, what I'm dealing with currently. That's all coming in future shows. This episode and the first one basically is to give a little bit of background on myself, a little bit of background on my mind, and just kind of set the flow of how the show is going to go. So anybody who listens to these first episodes has a good idea of how the show might go. Granted, these first episodes were pretty boring. Once I start actually telling my stories, it'll get a little bit more interesting. But if you have any of those conditions, if you have those conditions, if you have any of my similar mental issues, BPD, bipolar, dysthymia, anxiety, PTSD, please subscribe. For all I know, listening to my stories, whether you went through a similar situation or not, just listening to somebody else's stuff, knowing that somebody else is going through life with the same condition or similar condition as you, could help you. I mean, I've read some stories online from people that had BPD after I was first diagnosed, because I didn't understand the condition. Like, the way it was described to me, just the name of the condition threw me off. Like, what the hell is this? And so I did a little bit of research into it, trying to understand myself, and I came across some blog posts by other people who have the condition and how they deal with life and different things that they go through, and it did help me. So please subscribe. My stories might be able to help you, or if you reach out to me, maybe your stories can help me. I mean, that is the whole purpose of this podcast, is become more comfortable with myself, help me continue learning about myself and different coping skills. If you don't have any of these issues and my show is strictly entertainment for you, then fine, so be it. Subscribe anyway. Like I said, there's some stories that I'll be talking about that will sound so ridiculous you might get a good laugh out of my life. And like I said, you want to laugh at my life? Go ahead. There's parts of my life now I look back on and I laugh. Some of you, when I talk about my current events, might laugh about my current events, which right now, my current events are not funny to me at all. A year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, I might look back at now and laugh. So, whatever, whether... screw it, I'm losing my train of thought. I don't want to repeat I probably repeated myself a million times already. I don't want to repeat myself. I can't remember what I wanted to say, so I'm going to end this here, I guess. So yeah, between the first episode and this episode, there's a general background information on me. Okay, I got mental conditions. I lose my train of thought frequently. I had a messed up past. I got a messed up present. And this podcast is primarily for me, but if I help other people in the process, so be it. The reason for the paywall is partially because, I was going to have the podcast only be for me. So I tried making the subscription high enough, nobody would even consider it. And now the paywall is there because there's going to be certain content that, I just want that extra added layer so that minors won't stumble across content that they really shouldn't be hearing. So I'm going to be talking about suicide. I'm going to be talking about drugs. I'm going to be talking about some really serious issues that I've been through that I just don't want, and they are very personal stories to me. So I don't want them, open. You want to hear them, you can hear them, but you're going to have to pay the subscription. So those particular stories I don't want, easily accessible to the wrong people or the wrong age groups. It's going to be strictly adult-only content, full of triggers. I might be cursing quite a bit more than I've cursed in this episode, depending on the story I'm telling. So that particular content is going to be subscriber-only content. I know some podcasts will have subscriber-only content for like bonus episodes or behind the scenes or whatever. That's not how I'm doing mine. My subscriber-only content is going to be parts of stories or entire stories that are full of possible triggers for people. This way, they can listen to my podcast, the free content, and I have to worry about hearing the triggers. Or they can pay, knowing that there's going to be triggers there, whatever might trigger them, whether it be, a mental issue or whatever. They can hear about it by paying for it. At least then they've made the choice knowing that the triggers are in there. And like I said, I don't want, granted, fine, yeah, kids are known to steal their parents' credit cards or whatever. I've seen people, steal heard of kids stealing their parents' cards to order DoorDash and stuff, okay? So I know it's possible somebody, underage might still manage to get access to my subscriber-only content, but that's it, it's an extra layer. I got the warnings up, mention of the triggers, listener discretion advised, not suitable for minors on the podcast webpage, on the podcast description, on the podcast logo. I have now mentioned it in the first episode and now this episode. So that's what it is. That's why I got the subscriber only content. It's not bonus per se. It's not behind the scenes. It's either entire stories or parts of stories that just are not suitable for certain people. Want to hear it? Pay a subscription and you can listen to it. It's going to be full of cursing, full of very personal stories, full of, things like suicide. There's going to be mention of drugs, just different real serious stuff. If you've now made it through this episode, I apologize for the redundancy. I apologize for the extreme boringness of these first two episodes. But hopefully, starting with the next episode, I feel comfortable enough to start going into actual stories and rehashing some of my actual past. I just hope that these first two episodes fulfilled my purpose of them and gave enough background on, how I think and how I view things for you to really understand, once the show starts going, once I start telling my stories, to the general feel of, how the podcast is going to go, how the show is going to go. If it didn't, and if I failed in that area, well, then I guess we're all going to have to see how the show goes. And anybody listening will have to get a feel for, how I think, how I view things, how I interpret things, as I start telling my stories, story to story. And, and unfortunately for me, I guess, if these first episodes didn't fulfill the purpose, starting out with telling my past, I'm probably gonna sound, more crazy and more fucked up and insane in the head than I really am, because I'm not that person anymore. I've changed a lot and I've calmed down a lot, and like I said, this podcast, I'm going to be covering stories that go back 20 plus years, 30 years. working my way up to the present. I guess that'll be it for this episode, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Please give me a subscribe, especially if you have BPD, bipolar, dysthymia, anxiety, PTSD. Please give me a subscribe. If you're interested in sharing your story, please email me at podcast@redconrad.com. Like I said, it can be just personal conversation between me and you, but I am interested in hearing your story. I mean, like I said, I've read stories from other people that had BPD, so I can try to understand myself, and reading theirs did help me. So if you want to share yours with me, maybe that would help me too. Or if you want to hear mine, you'll be hearing it via the podcast, story to story as I upload them. But if you have specific questions, maybe you have something that you'll ask I'll be willing to say in private that I won't be willing to say publicly in the podcast. I don't know. Podcast@redconrad.com. And I guess I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Red Conrad Show. Please don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you in the next episode.